Hey, delay of game, 5 yard penalty, first down still. Hey, welcome everybody. Just had to give one of those little pregnant pauses to build the expectation and the excitement. Dead Man Walking 55 here. We made it through 13 weeks of the SEC season. Now we come to championship week in all of the conferences. This whole season comes to a head where we decide who the real winners are and those that are pretenders. Welcome to us tonight to our Power 5 college football championship game preview special. We're going to look at the 5 conferences that make up the power schools in college football and preview the games this week. We got a lot of big heavy duty teams on the menu tonight, and we got a surprise or two in a couple of the conferences, but hey, good surprises and bad surprises. So anyway, well, it will be fun. Pardon me for my voice tonight, and if I cough, I will try not to do it in your ear. Been having a little bit of some sinus issues, and but hey, we'll deal with it. We'll move through it. We'll have fun. We'll have a great podcast. And if I end up falling over and collapsing, then I will leave it to my great co-host here, Geeky. Hey, Geeky.
Hi, everybody. And if you croak over and if it's up to me, this might turn into anarchy.
Well, probably if the Mrs. Jump comes in here, walks over me, and gets in here and starts playing around with you too, then you got complete anarchy.
Yes, me and Mrs. Dadman, we are totally going to start anarchy.
There you go.
I love her question. Why is it called football when they use their hands? I love that.
Exactly. We have
I have no idea.
One of our British friends says that all the time. It's like, it's like, what do you call it? Football. I mean, the international football, which we call soccer. Yeah, you use your foot all the time, but this is completely different. But it's one of the age-old questions, that you have out there. What do you call the game? I think you call it whatever you want to call it, and have fun with it. It's also so crazy how it's so different in so many different ways. So,
oh yeah.
Let me say hi to Castle. Hey man, thank you for being here.
Hey,
yeah, go ahead and Lark. I'm sorry, Geek. I talked over you.
I don't care.
We might have to get those memes out for later for other entertainment purposes, but hey.
Okay.
That's when we know we've jumped the shark and the stream's gone off off the chain. So Lurk away, Castle. Let me greet Geeky.
Yes.
I don't know if you have come across this man, Small Time Republic, in the chat over the weeks since you're relatively new to the show. This is our resident Auburn fan.
Hello, resident Auburn fan.
Yes, Small Time Republic. And guess what? You guys did win another conference game, and you ended up with Texas A&M at the same conference record. Congratulations, Auburn. And really, they got better when it looked as the year went on for their offense, and looked like the defense was a bit shaky. But you know what? At least Auburn fans, you can look a little bit west of you and know you could have had a worse season. So, But welcome, Small Time Republic. Always great to see you here. Always glad to see a lot of our regulars, especially our football experts, the people that actually watch the game. They have loyalties with the team. Why don't you? Here we say, we did win a conference game other than Missouri. It was a pleasant surprise. See, there you go. And now y'all have hired Hugh Freeze. Then, that's probably the. Yeah, the thing is, did he learn from his last stint at Ole Miss, or is he going to come down and do it again? Or is he cleaned up the act? You never know. And I got to look into the hire a little bit more because I know that some coaches, if they get flagged for certain violations, they carry a stigma to the schools where they're hired. So, but I have to look into that a little bit with that and see if that applies there. But yeah, hey, you got a good coach there. Hopefully y'all keep him more than a year or 2 years. But It's good. I'm happy for you, though, small town Republic. And there's nothing more miserable than having a bad team with a bad record. So, but Geeky, I know he's relatively new. Why don't you, real briefly, for anybody that is new, talk about a little bit about your likes and your background for college football.
So my team is the Tennessee Volunteers. I was born into it. So lived in Tennessee my entire life. I actually live in the dead heart of Knoxville. I'm literally about 15 minutes away from Neyland Stadium. I've been to several of the games. One of my highlighted games is whenever I actually ran through a crowd of people to get to the stadium entrance so that way I could see the band walk in while they were playing Rocky Top. So that's so that's pretty much my history with the University of Tennessee.
Oh, you know me. I if they start playing Rocky Top, I'm running the other way.
Uh-huh.
Not walking.
If I was so sure that we would not get like just completely knocked off for copyright, I would probably pull up Rocky Top on my phone and just blast it.
I would too. Yeah, maybe one day I'll be a little more brave. It's like when we play Georgia, it's like that Larry Munson call on the Run Lindsey Run play. I just would love to play that because that was one of the most classic plays of all time. And just, I was 10 years old at the time and just a little kid about to finally beat your hated rival and then lose the game like that.
And then no.
Yeah, I know. And back then they didn't have 90-yard pass plays. Bud Baloo could barely throw the ball 10 yards downfield. It's like you would have thought you could have stopped Georgia. So,
well, Georgia's one of those teams that seems to be unstoppable every now and again.
Yeah, sorry. And I'm afraid I'm afraid that they've hit that point again. You have a young head coach. Excuse me. You have a young head coach who's a great recruiter, bringing in lots of talent, restocking every year. It's just, it's a bad sign, And as a Gator fan in the East, in the East, as a Gator fan, I'm like, with Tennessee now coming up, like, geez, we're going to really fall behind with two younger coaches.
Well, you never know. Tennessee is very hot and cold, so I guess we'll see what happens next season. But we're still in 2022, so.
Well, this has come from Auburn fan. Buck Bellew is a legend. Just ask him. I have never met Buck Bellew, and I'm not sure the story, so I take it from that. Buck Bellew is very, very confident in himself, I'm sure, and loves self-promotion. But I don't doubt that. But I tell you what, what made him? Herschel Walker,
Yeah.
That made Buck Bellew. But hey, they still beat Florida. It was crazy. It was a very frustrating growing up as a kid. When you couldn't even, some games they got blown out like the 44-0, and a couple years they were so close they would tease you. You're like, hey, we're going to win this year, and then find a way to lose it at the very end.
So I know that feeling.
Yeah. So, as a Tennessee fan, which one of the teams rivals that you played that you feel that way about?
Oh, for the longest time, I felt that way about Florida because, I mean, there were some games where we got super close, and don't ask me to name one off because, full disclosure, I just got off work about 30 minutes ago, so the brain is still trying to like decompress from that, but like, we would get so close to beating Florida and then something would happen and then Florida would beat us yet again. Like, I never really expected to win against Alabama because Saban he's the Mack truck. Well, maybe not so much this year, but Alabama's been that Mack truck that we could never get past until this year. Georgia, I mean, we had that one year where Josh Dobbs threw that Hail Mary into a sea of red and it came up with an orange helmet. Well, no, I don't think we were wearing the orange helmets then, but it came up with a Tennessee player and we won that game. But then from there, we just lose. But the biggest rival for me has been Florida. It's always been Florida.
Well, one thing, tell them, one, never wear those daggum orange helmets again. That just no. And two, I got a game for you.
Uh-huh.
I remember which year. I'd have to look it up, but it was was it 10-7, 10-9, the Treon Harris game where Treon Harris was the Gator quarterback. The
Oh
guy that
my
couldn't throw the ball
God.
2 yards was hideously horrible. And that year, what made it even worse is the Gator kicker could not make half of his field goals. It was that bad. But he kicked a 50-something yarder that made the winning score for them. That would be one of those games as a Tennessee fan I'd like to. If I was a Tennessee fan, it would drive me crazy. So, hey.
Yes. Well, thanks for reminding me about that. I appreciate that.
Oh, that's what I'm here for. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Geeky, I think you agree with this.
Yes, absolutely, Castle. Love it whenever Saban loses because it makes me happy whenever he starts tantering on the sideline like a little child, like he did this year whenever we played him.
Yeah, that video clip. Yeah,
That aged so well.
absolutely. It couldn't happen to a nicer guy. But, he said last year was a rebuilding year and they made the playoffs. So they probably won't make the playoffs this year. So what does that make this year? A really down year? Who knows?
Who
I think
knows?
that's what we can all agree with that are not Alabama fans is when Saban gets driven crazy. So, in small time, yeah, this is absolutely true.
Yes.
That game decided the East for many, many years, and
Mhm.
it was usually the first SEC game of the year too, 3:30 on CBS.
Yep.
Yeah.
Double rebuilding year. Sorry, I jumped ahead.
I know, but that's okay. Double rebuilding year. There you go. Oh, wow. So we got 3 here. Thank you for everybody that's here, and thank you if you come in later, and thank you if you watch it on the replay. Be sure to follow us on the Twitch side, and if you're watching on the YouTube side, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We are about 34 away, I think, or 32, 34 away from my 24-hour stream.
Yay!
Yay!
like
So you're going to have overnight duty.
And like I said on my tweet, go, scoot, scoot. Go subscribe, go follow, scoot, scoot.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into it, shall we?
We shall.
All right. Well, here we're going to go with what we always say here, what we always remind people. We will have some picks near the end of what we think we will see. And before we get started, hey, Jess, thank you for coming by. One of my best mods. Thank you for being here. And thank you for sharing that link out there. So I appreciate it. So, like I said, every time it's not a gambling site, Whoopa. Yeah, us two again. Yep, Whoopa.
Yep.
Hey, I might talk to you a little bit later too, Whoopa. Hey, glad you're here, man. When we get to the Big 12, be sure to throw some stuff out there, okay? Because I know you're the Big 12 expert. And then hi back to Jess again. So hey, thank you for being here. Like I said, we're not a gambling site. We're just talking football, having some fun. If you try to use me for basis for your gambling, you're going to be sorely disappointed and not earning a lot of money. You'll probably lose as much, if not more, than you would have gained. So we're here for fun. We're here to talk football. If you have any questions, how the game's played, a rule change, a name, why a team is somewhere, if anything basic about football you want to know, just go ahead and throw it out in the chat and we'll try to deal with it. If you're in Auburn, like small town Republic, throw some out there, even if it's not, not related to championship game, there are issues we can talk about, conference or nationally. Whoopa, there's stuff in the Big 12. We don't mind stopping and talking a little bit and addressing some of that. As long if we know it and we're up to speed on it. But yeah, that's what we're here for, right, Geeky?
Yep.
Absolutely. So with that being said, we're here to have some fun tonight, and let's start getting into it. So this is the 2022 Power 5 Conference Championship Special. We're here to preview the games of 5 conferences: the Southeastern Conference, the Atlantic Coast Conference, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Pac-12 conferences. And yes, I got the Big 10 right this time, even though they have 12 teams. That is one of those that always throws me a fit. So But hey, let's go with our first conference of the night. We may spend more time on this, and especially SEC fans, feel free to throw in and leave some comments on this game. It's LSU plays Georgia in Atlanta Saturday afternoon at 4:00 for the SEC championship. And what it will more than likely be a automatic bowl to the playoff series coming up starting at the end of the month. I believe the first games or the playoff are actually on December 31, New Year's Eve, in a couple of the bowls, and then the championship game is actually played January 9th. So we've got Georgia and LSU, as we said here. LSU comes in at 9-3, 6-2 in the conference as the Western Division winners. Georgia comes in at 12-0, 8-0 in the conference from the East. You can see the records. LSU started off the year with a loss on a neutral site game to FSU on a blocked extra point. Basically, they had a kind of a good year. Then they hit the blip at Tennessee that they hosted and just got run out of their own stadium. Bringing off 5 more wins in a row until whatever you want to call that last week at Texas A&M. Not even close. Just really got decimated by a very weakened Texas A&M team. And, for you Auburn fans, though, dadgummit, why couldn't A&M be bad again? Because then you would have not had tie for the bottom. A&M would have been there by themselves. Georgia, as you see, undefeated, 12-0. They had a few hiccups along the way. Specifically, Samford, they beat 33-0. It was a very bad, boring game, very lackluster. My kid was there for that. They left early because it was just, when you play a team like that, you really should just get it over early and be an easy win. And that was coming off a big blowout of the Oregon Ducks. So sorry, Geeky.
Well,
yeah,
it's the Ducks. I expect it.
Yep. Well, and then what's so funny with Georgia? Then the next week they go on the road to South Carolina and blow South Carolina out 48-7. They go home and struggle to Kent State, and then the next week on the road at Missouri, took until 4 minutes left in the game before they could finally pull ahead of Missouri and took the lead for good. So it's really kind of a crazy back and forth team. So it's at times, but you know what? When it all comes to matter, they're there to play. They come to play. Overall, they had 4 common opponents within the conference. LSU winning 3 of those games over Mississippi State, Auburn, and Florida, but losing to Tennessee. And Georgia was 4-0 in those games, beating Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. So, and here's some the WUPA's got here. Mississippi State being ranked feels weird. They basically got an ass kicked every time they played a real team. That is very true. That is very true, and a good observation. They do not play well. It's like if you go look at and it seems to be every year for them. They never beat Alabama. They never beat, usually don't beat Texas A&M or any of the better teams over in the West. Arkansas, the 4 top teams in the West, Mississippi State lost to this year. It's really, really crazy. But they got their cowbells.
More cowbell.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Well, for LSU, you look at their quarterback this year was Jalen Daniels. He passed for about 2,600 yards. He threw 15 interceptions to only 2 interceptions. While Stetson Bennett threw for about 3,200 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Both tend to run the ball at times, very deceptively fast, quick, especially Stetson Bennett, compared to what you would expect. Jalen Daniels was also LSU's leading rusher with 824 yards and 11 touchdowns. McIntosh for Georgia was about 700 yards and 8 touchdowns. and basically the leading receivers for each team have about 700 yards receiving. Brock Bowers being the big difference for Tennessee, got Tennessee on the brain. Georgia this year, who has made many spectacular plays, including long running touchdowns, which you would not expect for a tight end, but he has had a really good year for Georgia. So, and he makes a difference in certain spots in the games. On average, LSU scoring about 33 points a game. Georgia is averaging around 38 points a game. The big difference between the two come to defense. LSU's defense has been kind of spotty when they gave up 35 to Florida, 31 to Alabama. They've had some weak games, 38 to A&M. So they're on defense. LSU's given up around 21 and a half points a game. But Georgia actually took a step back this year. They are actually giving up more yardage this year than they did last year. Points per game. It was they're giving up actually over 11 points a game this year when they were only holding opponents to about 10 points a game last year. So not a typical Georgia defense, but you know what? When you're only averaging giving up one more point a game, it's like I'd love to have those problems,
Mm-hmm.
Basically, both teams throw more than they pass. LSU averages around 250 yards, and Georgia 280 yards of passing and running. Both are around 200 yards per game. So, you expect to see some running, some passing, and a whole mix of both of them with these teams. So, Geeky, any thoughts with what you've seen from these two teams this year coming into this matchup?
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. From watching LSU and watching Georgia, I tell you what though, and I'm going to talk about this in the whenever we get to the ACC though, because I did look at some highlights with like Michigan, because of course they're number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think LSU is going to get Georgia. I think Georgia's going to win. And if it pans out this way, and if Georgia gets to play Michigan, I think Michigan's going to give them a run for their money. In all honesty, Georgia. I mean, here's the thing: you have a 16-6 win against Kentucky. That's not Georgia. I mean, yeah, you have your 30-0, and then you have your 55-0. But I mean, even look at Tennessee. I mean, it's a 4-point game. That, to me, that's just not Georgia. Like, Georgia should have blown us out of the water, even with the improvements that we've made. Yep. But like these scores that are extremely close, like Missouri, for instance, I don't know, man. That's just not the Georgia that I'm used to seeing year over year.
But I will still say that Michigan had some of their own problems, like Illinois, that game at home, and they took a late field goal to win that game.
Yeah.
So it's it happens. Yeah, I know. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, because it's really not that type of old Alabama or that old Florida type team that would just go out and just blow everybody out every game. And let me say hi to Wade. Thank you for coming by, Wade.
Good to see Wade.
You. Yep. Whoopa's saying that the game seems like bragging rights for LSU because Georgia is making it in no matter what. Yeah, and that's true. LSU could win this game, but they're not going to make it in. They're too. We'll look at the playoff poll shortly, but they're not going to put a 3-loss team in this thing. LSU's post child for anything can happen team this season. Yes, they did. They've had some really crazy highs and lows. They were really crazy highs and lows this year.
Oh yeah,
losing that game to FSU at the beginning, and then losing the last damn game of the season
to Texas A&M of all people.
I know, and they gave up 38 points to a team that could not cross the goal line really all year. And then Tennessee, they were rolling hot, and then Tennessee goes in just as a buzzsaw. Them,
we just said nope.
Yep, exactly. Probably about an hour, like the missus said, or towards an hour and a half. We'll see how long it goes. It depends on how long our voices hold up and stuff. Whoopa says that Illinois was a sneaky good team, though. 4 losses, but all losses by 1 score. Yes, that reminds me of a team like Missouri this year with all their close losses. what could have happened had the games gone a different way or one more score, But those sometimes, geeky, I think, are the harder years, when you look back and you see, dang it, if only this would have happened and we could have won, then actually haven't just gotten beat.
Yeah, those are the woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Yep, exactly. The only last stat of note is that and this is probably the biggest statistical difference between the two teams is on defense again. We noticed that there was about 10, Georgia gives up 10 points fewer a game, but both teams give up around 200 yards passing in a game, but the rushing yardage allowed, LSU averages giving up 144 yards a game. Georgia only gives up about 80 yards a game on the ground. So that is probably your big indicator right there. I mean, could LSU run the ball? I mean, they've got a scrambling quarterback. They've got a stable of running backs. And that may be how their game goes, is that they can keep Georgia off balance by actually running like nobody else has been able to.
Yeah. Totally agree with you on that.
Yep. So, but that's where we got with the SEC championship game here. Looking at the overall series record between the two teams, LSU leads the series, 18 wins to Georgia, 13 wins with one tie. Remember, again, they don't have as many games as a lot of the other matchups in the conference because they're East-West. They don't play every year. They're not the traditional matchup. And the other side that they do play every year, LSU plays Florida every year in the East. Georgia plays Auburn in the other side every year. So I almost got confused with Alabama there for a second. I'm so used to Alabama being here, but yeah, that's too funny. It's like, where's Alabama? Yeah, go back and look at my initial show this year, and I picked Alabama to win the conference championship. Nowhere to be seen. Hey, but it happens. And give LSU credit for. A lot of people got Alabama this year. Tennessee got Alabama. LSU got Alabama. I think I was more surprised about LSU winning that game, though. But
yeah.
But if you look back at the score, LSU won at home 32-31 because it was right at the end of regulation. Chip Kelly decided not to go to overtime. It was let's go ahead and go for two, and it paid out. They got it, which was a really challenging call. What would you do in that situation though with that? Because LSU played FSU the first game of the season. They were going to kick the extra point with no time on the clock to go to overtime. Kick was blocked. So LSU loses.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get the same situation later in the year against a team that you generally don't beat. And normally you do that going for two on the road, but to do it at home, that was an interesting decision there by Chip Kelly.
I would agree with that. That was very interesting, but it got him the W, so you can't really be mad about it.
No, and it's like you don't leave it up to your kicker to decide it either. That's what a lot of people. You don't let it up to the kicker because the kickers like to miss things all the time. So.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Well, their first meeting in history was November 17th, 1928. They have met 4 times in the SEC championship games in 2003, 2005, 2011, and 2019. SEC with the SEC championship going to Georgia one of those years. LSU has actually won 3 of the 4 matchups. Georgia won the game in 2005. The two teams have never met in a bowl game, even dating back to many, many years ago when it could have happened. The longest win streak for LSU in the series was November 17th, 1928 to October 20th, 1945, spanning 7 games. And Georgia has won 3 games in a row 3 times over the series history. So that is a look at LSU and Georgia, the stats and the numbers for this year, and kind of what has happened over the course of the series history. And Whoopa says it was ballsy. I like it. Even with Alabama having a down year, at least according to everyone, but the CFP committee, you don't want to get in a slugfest with them. No, you don't. And Tennessee found that out. Tennessee got up really big this year. You remember that, Geeky? It got up really big, then Alabama came back. I mean, you really
Yep.
that you getting a slugfest at Alabama. It's draining. It's very tough.
It is. I mean, Alabama's not a rollover team at all by any stretch of the imagination. Like, again, I'm shocked that we won. Like, there
Mhm.
are if you go back and watch that game, there's a lot of calls that those refs did not call, and I honestly think that no pun intended, that the tide may have turned in Alabama's
Yeah,
favor,
it
but
would.
you never know. But I don't know that
Yeah,
Saban. There's a reason why Saban gets paid 7 figures a year. So
yeah, yep, exactly. It was definitely interesting to see. Um, Whoopa, you might be able to address this. I have not had time today to look at it, but did I see something that officially that the playoff series is actually expanding to 12 games in 2024? Um, I know there's been a lot of talk about it. Like you can tell from his comment about how the committee loves Alabama, and there's a lot of. I mean, Alabama has a lot of tradition, a lot of history, and it has viewers. And yep, yep, I do agree with you. It's like when they start losing the big teams with the big draws, they'll respond.
yep.
Now, my concern is for the bowl games, because when you do this, you're going to make the bowl games even more irrelevant.
Hmm.
But yeah, well, thank you for confirming that. So hey, maybe Florida has a chance. See, this just
Hey,
Tennessee would have a chance this year. So
yeah.
that's all we ask for. It. You're saying there's a chance.
You're saying there's a chance.
So all right, well, that's the SEC championship game preview. We'll take our picks in a little bit and see who we're going to pick to win. Um, and we'll go to our next championship game. Unless you have do you have any other thoughts or observations, Geeky?
Georgia's going to beat LSU, but we'll get to that later.
And we'll get to that later. Yep, there you go. Nice surprise. Let me go ahead. Not sure what to think about 12 teams. It could be good or make the regular season kind of irrelevant for major schools. Yes, very true. There's a lot
Hmm.
of unforeseen effects that nobody really knows what will happen going forward. So, and that's been what's made college football so important in the regular seasons is you can't afford to lose a game.
Hmm.
But we'll look at that in a bit when we look at the college football playoff poll, because there's teams with 2 and 3 losses that would be in the top 12.
Yep.
So hey. All right, well, let's go to the Big 12. All right, we got in this matchup, we have Kansas State is going to be playing Texas Christian University in Arlington, Texas. Um, it will be surprisingly, I like Big 12 football. There's no defense, there's a lot of offense. And this game should be kind of fun to watch, even though Kansas State does not throw the football a lot like we're used to. They tend to give the bigger teams a lot of fits when they play with defense and the ability to run the ball.
Hmm.
Kansas State comes in at 9-3, 7-2 in the conference, um, with wins over Oklahoma, Texas Tech. They did lose to TCU during the year. They shut out Oklahoma State with a loss to Texas and a dominating win over Baylor. Um, TCU comes in at 12-0, 8-0 in the conference. Also, if you look at the common opponents, they played 8 common opponents, one if you include them head to head. Kansas State was 6-2 in those games, and TCU was 8-0. Perfect run the table there. TCU had wins, out of conference at Colorado. They won at Kansas, who had a surprisingly good season this year. And yep, oh yeah, Big 12 baby. Okay, and it's something Whoopa doesn't have an expectation of what happened in this game. So hey, it should be a fun game though. I don't think it's going to be TCU's been playing a lot of close games at times, except for this week with Iowa State, but it should be a really, really good game. And like I said, Kansas State has a way of performing in the big games. So head to head, 6-2, 8-0 against common opponents. basically, when you look at the stats from an individual level, here illustrates the difference in the offenses. Texas Christian has thrown for 332 pass attempts with Duggan as a quarterback, and Martinez for Kansas State has only attempted 184 passes. So you see that definitely that Kansas State is more of a run-heavy offense.
Yeah.
In this game. The rushing leaders, Vaughn for Kansas State has run for almost 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns. And for TCU, Miller has run for on about 200 carries, has run for 1,260 yards and 16 touchdowns.
Wow.
So, you know, the few times, but it's kind of crazy. With that kind of yardage, you think that they would be a running team too, but they tend to throw the ball quite a bit when you look at the numbers. And we'll look at the team stats in just a second. Whoop said TCU has looked very beatable this whole year, but hasn't lost yet. K-State dominated a lot of teams, but also 1-3 versus ranked opponents. One win was OU, which we know was not good. Yeah, and that's the same observation like for a team like Tennessee. You know, they beat a lot of ranked teams at the time, but you know they all fell off the grid. So, but yeah, absolutely, that's a good point. I mean, they look vulnerable, and you know what's so dangerous? Those sometimes are the teams that will win the championships.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks you're going to get them. You think you're going to get them. It's like everybody chasing Alabama. You think this year you're going to get them, or the old Georgia teams, and you don't. So, in terms of offensive output, points per game, Kansas State's averaging 33 points scoring. TCU's averaging over 41 points a game, while giving up TCU's giving up about 25 points a game, while Kansas State's only giving up slightly less than 20 points a game. Both teams are averaging over 400 yards per game. Generally, TCU averaging about 50 yards more a game than Kansas State is. Defensively, Kansas State is giving up about 360 yards a game, and TCU is giving up 383 yards a game. So, seems like very even matchup too statistically when you look at it.
Yeah. I'm with Whoopa. I don't know what's even going to happen in this game just because they have close numbers. I think this one's going to be a good game.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. This it's a shame it's on at noon though.
I know.
You know, for the poor people in the Midwest, I mean, you got to watch a damn game at 11 o'clock in the morning. I mean,
where's the fun in that?
Put the ACC game on at noon. You know. I mean, we're East Coast. That's different, you know. But these people, I mean, you shouldn't have to watch a football game at 11 o'clock in the morning. So it's interesting. But hey, they'll do it. They'll have fun. But yeah, we don't really know what to expect. I don't mean to drive Whoopa crazy, but that if you look at that one game with TCU at Baylor, that was a game that Baylor should have won. They should have won that game. At the end, your buddy Eric Ainge up there, I heard him on the Monday morning. He's like, or no, it was on Saturday when Tennessee was playing. That day, they were kind of had the TVs on. He's like, they're going to lose because they're playing. But Baylor was doing the thing about making TCU use all 3 timeouts instead of trying to get the first down. And he predicted it's like you play to lose, you're going to lose, and that for sure happened. And even TCU didn't have a timeout; they had to run a kicking team out there, do it the old way with snap and kick. You know, it's really so. And Whoopa's like, yeah, 11 is I agree with you. I hate noon games even here. So, and sorry, Whoopa, it was one game that jumped out at me. Sorry.
And plus, 11's kind of too early for tailgating. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I know it's crazy. It's insane. But see, TCU also had other pitfalls. They struggled at Kansas that game. Oklahoma State nearly got them. You see a lot of close games. Texas was a tough game. You know, but you know what? At the end of the day, they've won.
Yes.
And that's what you do. You survive and win, survive and advance. And a bad win is better than any good loss.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. All right. And then TCU is our rival. We had a shot to win it. Yep. I agree. Y'all had it. Y'all had it right up till the end. Y'all had it right up till the end. Let's see. And Castle chimes in. I don't know. There's sometimes I could eat some barbecue. Yes, I do agree with that. That would make a 11 o'clock game get up and moving.
I can eat barbecue in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at
Mm-hmm.
2:00 in the morning. It doesn't matter. Feed me some barbecue.
Well, we need Martin D with a C here now to show
Yep.
all the barbecue pictures. No, hey. Well, this series is tied 8-8 between the two teams. Their first meeting was in November 30th, 1922, but they did not meet again until 1983. They've never met in a championship or bowl game. The longest win streaks in series, Kansas State's won 3 from 2019 to 2021. And similar with Georgia, TCU's won 3 games in a row 3 times over the history of the series. So, Geeky, you got anything else? Other thoughts here? I mean, we'll talk about who wins a little bit later, but just, I mean, looking at a running team, a primary running team against a team that has balance, could be a high scoring affair, I think.
I think so too. I don't know what to expect just because their stats are so close. I mean, of course, any given Sunday, but I can't say if. Well, of course, we'll get to that later, but I'm really interested to watch this game just because knowing their stats are so close.
Yeah, it will be. I think honestly, it will turn out to be better than the ACC championship game.
Oh yeah,
because usually the ACC championship games are pretty flat and boring, one-sided.
yes, they
And
are.
this game has a chance to be kind of fun. It could be a slow slug it out, and it could be a track meet.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we all know the Big 12 is not known for its defense. So, all right. Well, that is 2 down, 3 more to go. So, okay, Geeky, I'll let you take it from here as we go into the Big Ten. The Big Ten matchup in Indianapolis, Indiana, between the Purdue Boilermakers and the Michigan Wolverines.
Wow. So we've got, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 common teams. Let's see here. We've got Michigan with a couple of high scoring games. We've got 51-7 against Colorado State, 56-10 against Hawaii, 59-0 against UConn, and perfect record. And then you've got Purdue over here with you've got a win over Indiana State, but that kind of Indiana State may be like the Vanderbilt of that particular area. I guess Whoop is gonna have to. Oh no. He's Big 10, right? Or Big 12. See, I did it too.
Yeah, Big 12. Yeah, but yeah.
But I do see that Michigan, has a lot more high scoring than what Purdue does. As far as stats go, I'm going to let you take that.
Yep.
But I mean, as far as like wins over losses, clearly Michigan has an advantage over Purdue.
Absolutely. That coming in at 12-0, ranked number 2, Purdue. Purdue's had a good year for the school. That is what they're. It's one of those schools that you're lucky to have a good year. And if you look at that side of the bracket, you can have Purdue or Illinois, some weird teams that come out of that side. And guess what their usual reward is? If they do make the championship game, even at 8-4, 7-5, or whatever, they get to face either Michigan or Ohio State.
Yep.
What a pleasant bonus that is,
Yeah, because I mean, even though Michigan and Ohio State play each other, like if you're going into their conference game, you're going to have to play Michigan or Ohio State. So if you're one of those teams that's coming in that has, 4 losses, and you see Michigan with, 12-0, or, you have Ohio State that has 12-0, you're kind of like, okay, so what do we do?
You prepare to be sacrificed.
Yeah, that yep. They're the sacrificial lambs, just like I am in Fortnite.
Uh, hey, but meat shields are very important because you help lead the team to victory. While everybody's
Absolutely.
shooting at you, everybody else can take them out. So, um, yeah, it's a good point. That Michigan had a really good offense this year. I mean, they had a few downers. Like the big, probably of note, was the Illinois game,
Hmm.
which was very close. But give Illinois
Yeah,
credit for fighting through on that one. Um, yeah,
that is.
exactly.
Yep.
This used to be the SEC. You remember?
Hmm.
Because when either for the longest time it's Florida or Tennessee, maybe Georgia. Everybody in the West would come to be sacrificed, especially to the Gators or Tennessee. Um,
Hmm.
it was not even close. You knew it going in. Well, then it flipped a little bit to the West when Alabama is dominant. That whoever in the East would not have a chance. You knew you were going to get sacrificed
Hmm.
against the other side. So that happens a lot with these East-West matchups. Is going in, it's not going to look good. But like you said, common opponents 5-0 for Michigan, 3-2 for Purdue. Points per game. And see, this is also going to be telling stats here when we look at them, which probably illustrates why Purdue is really behind the 8 ball here to say. On
Yeah.
offense, Purdue's averaging 28 points a game while giving up 23, but Michigan is averaging almost 40 points a game, but only giving up 13 points per game. That is a huge difference in offensive defensive production.
Hmm.
Total yards, Purdue's averaging about 406 a game. Michigan's averaging about 460 yards a game. What is interesting of note, Purdue, Jeff Brom is their head coach, famous for him with passing when he did it in college. They are more of a pass heavy offense. They're averaging 280 yards a game passing, about 125 yards a game rushing the ball. But here's the kicker for Michigan. They don't pass as much,
No.
280 for Purdue, but 214 per game by Michigan. But whereas Purdue runs for about 125 a game, Michigan is running for almost 250 yards per game.
Yeah.
So it
It could get interesting though. It could get interesting.
always, especially in games like this, you never know. It's a few turnovers, a few. Purdue, if Purdue gets hot, being able to move the ball and score. I think the thing for Purdue's case is they've got to score touchdowns.
Yes.
So many times in these games, it comes down to: are you settling for field goals or are you scoring touchdowns?
Yeah.
So and defensively, but see, this is what another stat that kind of makes it a challenge for Purdue. They're giving up almost 80 yards more per game than Michigan at 347 versus 262 for Michigan. Michigan is very reflective of Georgia. That would be an interesting national title game if that
Hmm.
happens, because like Georgia, they give up more passing, about almost 180 yards a game, but they give up less than 100 yards rushing a game. So
Yep.
that would be interesting down the road. While Purdue gives up about 218 through the air and gives up 128 on the ground. So it's going to be probably a long day for Purdue, but I don't know who else you could have gotten in there to, you know, to challenge Michigan. And what was impressive with Michigan was in the Ohio State game. The way that game started, it seemed like
Hmm.
Ohio State was going to roll, and
Hmm.
really quickly. I mean, I came back and looked, and Michigan had blown it open. It's like, wow.
So I watched some of the highlights from that particular game just to kind of watch Michigan a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Against Ohio State, I mean, they found a lot of holes in Ohio State's defense that led to a lot of big runs.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, if Michigan can do that against Purdue, I don't see any reason why Michigan doesn't win. But again, we'll talk about that later.
yeah. It could get ugly early. So,
Yeah.
do you want to get, since you pulled up these? Do you want to go ahead
Yeah.
and take this stuff off to the right?
Oh, yeah. So Michigan leads the series record 45-14. So it's probably going to be a long day for Purdue. Their first meeting was November the 1st of 1890. They've never met in a championship or a bowl game. So this is going to be a new tick on their pairings here. They whenever I looked at like their streaks, like you have to look at it and see like from 1962 to 66 they played. Purdue won 5 games, which is pretty much every single game within that streak. But then in the 80s into the 90s, Michigan won 9 games, so they're going to have the excuse me, they're going to have the winning record for that. But again, Michigan leads 45-14, so it's going to be a long day for Purdue, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. It will be. At least we think. But hey.
Well, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? So, well, have you watched much of the Big 12 this year? I have not watched too much.
No, I haven't. Well, as far as Big 12, no, I don't really watch the Big 12. I usually stick with the Pac-12 just because a team in the Pac-12 is named the Ducks, so they're my Ducks. Yep. And then, of course, the SEC. And I do watch the Big 10, but really in the Big 10, I only focus on Michigan and Ohio State just because that's the big rivalry. And then I do kind of stay caught up on the ACC just because we do have some of the ACC teams that sometimes our SEC teams play. So, yeah, but Big 12, I'm not really big on.
I've not watched a lot of it, but I've caught some of it. Like Penn State did play at Auburn this year. It was an interesting game, but Penn State pulled away from Auburn pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Some of the games, like you caught the Illinois-Michigan game, but what's kind of disappointing, you got teams like Nebraska that really have fallen on bad times. Indiana had been decent, but fallen on bad times. Michigan State is another that seemed to be turning the corner, but they've regressed this year. So it really is a more so than the SEC, because at least the SEC has probably 3-4 teams that can challenge at times.
Mm-hmm.
The Big 12 really is Michigan and Ohio State, and there's nothing outside of that.
Yep. So, I agree.
All righty. Well, we shall move on. If you want to start off this one, wait, let me see here real quick. The missed height of the Baylor offense with scores of 61-50. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was, I think that was Art Briles was the coach, or his son was the offensive coordinator. Yeah, they had some really high score. And then, of course, they had some trouble too. But yeah, I mean, those are the days. I missed the Tim Tebow Gators, because that was like, turn on the offense. You don't even have to worry. You know, showing up, you're going to get 30 at least.
I hate the Tebow Gators.
I know you do, but I hate the Peyton Manning Volunteers, but we still beat them.
Why? Why?
Just because having to listen to him and look at his face all the time and hear everybody's talk about it.
No. You should hate the Team Martin Volunteers.
Yeah. They actually won a game. They won a conference and a national championship.
Yes, we did, but nobody ever remembers that.
Nope. No, they don't. So I tell you what, how about this one? The Atlantic Coast Conference game. Mm-hmm. It's also a night game on ABC. Clemson comes in at 10-2, 8-0 overall in the conference. North Carolina comes in 9-3, 6-2 in the conference. When you look at the schedules, I mean, they've had 5 common opponents. Clemson's undefeated among those: Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, NC State, Notre Dame, and Miami for 5-0. And then Carolina's only one, so it's like, you have mixed bags between the two. So, but North Carolina, what do you see out of this game coming, Geeky?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know what to expect with this game, because with the records the way that they are, they seem fairly matched, but we would have to look at stats to see what their seasons have been to get a good grasp on that. And, you know, I mean,
Mhm.
they've never met in bowl games. They've only played one championship game in 2015, so these teams haven't really met that much.
Yeah, it's back to that divisional split,
Yep,
as to how often you play people. Well, this and the thing is, like with this game, is what Clemson team's going to show up?
exactly.
Is it going to be and what quarterback is going to show up for them? Because their
Mhm.
quarterback is really, it's kind of like I said with the Gators all year. It depends on how the quarterback goes. If he's consistent, if he's good,
Yep.
will determine their performance and how well they do. But they
Well, and you also have to look at it, especially with, North Carolina losing to NC State last week and then Clemson losing to South Carolina last week. They lost their in-home rivalries. So, you have to wonder, like, how are the players going to look at this game like, okay, well, we lost last week, our team's going to turn on the Jets, or,
Mhm.
is this just going to be a blowout for Clemson, or is it going to be a blowout for North Carolina? I can't really say too much on this one because to be honest with you, this
Well,
is one of those years where I haven't watched the ACC that much.
well, when I've watched it, it's been kind of boring. I mean, even your good teams like Wake Forest was supposed to be good. They fell apart during the
Yeah.
year. I mean, it just. But see, with Clemson, everybody was announcing their death, and then everybody picked Wake Forest to beat them, and then Clemson all of a sudden got offense and won that game.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, but then again, this Clemson team at home just laid a big egg to Scar. I mean,
Yep.
they make Spencer Rattler look like an all-star quarterback. They lost at home. The quarterback, I cannot pronounce his name, DJ, but he threw for 90. He threw for 99 yards. It's like that shouldn't happen at home against a team like South Carolina. That was very very interesting. So um, I agree with Whoopa ACC lame.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, there you go. I've heard about the fake slide. Apparently, there's a rule change. Boring. Yeah. Well, I tell
Yeah.
you what. I tell you what. Uh, I've had personal experience with the ACC championship game because it was supposed to be here in Florida. They wanted it down here because specifically Miami Hurricanes and the Florida State Seminoles. Well, the first year it was Florida State and Virginia Tech. Bobby Bowden, Frank Beamer, sellout, great crowd and all. So then the next game, what we got was a run heavy Georgia Tech team versus Wake Forest in the rain, which was a 9-6 game. Then the next year they got Virginia Tech, which is not bad, but then got Boston College.
Yeah.
I mean, and they got mad and took the game away because how y'all aren't supporting it. Dude, you gave us such crappy matchups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about a city in the way southeast. Who's going to come down from Boston? Wake Forest is a tiny school as it is, and they took it away. I loved going to it. What was really funny was the last game that they did, the Virginia Tech Boston College game.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up. We went up to top, and they're like, "Hey, would you pay extra to go sit down closer to the field?" We looked around and it's like, there's like 10 people in the upper deck with us. We got a freaking concession stand. We got a private bathroom on it. It's like, no, we're not going to pay
No.
more. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to spread out. I'm going to just be a man up here and just, let it all hang out and have fun. And it just was but I do agree. ACC football is not the best, but
Yeah.
if you love your teams, then you love it. You're excited. I will say the fans were great from Georgia Tech and Wake Forest. They loved their teams and they traveled but it was a dreary day and just a bad game. And then the next time Boston College might have had 20 people in the band. It was like, you're just like, this is supposed to be a major college championship game. So, but
Oh, the poor ACC. They're like the redheaded stepchild of all the NCAA football conferences.
yeah. And that fake slide. Yeah, I had to explain why that was important to the misses, because you fake slide, the defender's going to pull up so they don't hit you. And then it's too many rules. I still say too many rules. So, but hey, barely remember the last time they were good. Yeah, Matt Ryan years was probably the last time. Um, so you want to go ahead and take since you did the research on these, go ahead and take over the
Yeah.
stuff on the right. Yeah.
So Clemson leads 38-19 with one tie, and they first met on October the 25th of 1987. And let's see here, their longest streaks from November 8th to November 8th, 1986 to November 7th, 1992. We have Clemson with 7 games. And then we have November 15th, 1969, all the way to November the 4th of 1972, North Carolina with 4 games. So we might get a game. It's probably not going to be that interesting, but who knows?
Yeah, they did. And as much as I've railed against the ACC football,
Yeah.
this one, it just depends on. That's the problem. We keep saying it depends. I hate that.
Well, and my thing is that it does depend on which quarterback shows up for Clemson. If Clemson's quarterback actually shows up to play, I think that Clemson's got this in the bag. If he does not, I think that North Carolina will get them.
Yeah. North Carolina's got enough offense to keep up with Clemson if the Clemson offense struggles. So, it'll be. This is a game I think could be in the 30s. It could be a track meet kind of game, but
yeah,
we'll see. Depends on the weather too. Whatever the forecast is up there, it's going to be cold, snowy, wet, whatever. That sometimes has an effect of the game. That was another reason to bring the game down in the Southeast was that you would be less likely to have that kind of inclement weather. I mean, in terms of the cold, the snow. But hey.
Yeah, but down in Florida, y'all got some dang hurricanes. Like, geez.
Hey, the wall went up today, because it's hurricane season. So we're done now. Although every once in a while they've been known to prop up early or late, but usually they're way out at sea. So, but yeah, we'll move on to another season. And with that, we'll move on to the 5th and final conference championship game. Geeky, you want to go ahead and take this over for me?
The Pac-12, absolutely. So we have Utah with 9 wins and 3 overall, 7-2 in the conference. We have USC with 11 wins and 1 overall and 8-1 in the conference. We've got very common opponent record. We have 7-1 for both of them. They play. This is the one that got me because they have played pretty much the same schedule except for those other 4, which I think is really interesting because they play the same opponents. They've already played each other with a win to USC. So now it really depends on stats in this one, in my opinion. So, excuse me, I do apologize. Like I said, they've already met this year. The series record, USC leads 13-8. They first met in 1915 on November the 20th, which I'm going to go ahead and call out my best friend from high school. That is her birthday.
Hey.
They have met up in bowl championship meetings. In 2001, they met in the Las Vegas Bowl in Las Vegas, Nevada. That one went to Utah. But in 1993, and the reason why I did this one second is because 1993 is a very significant year for my Anaheim Ducks. That was the year that they were formed. And these two teams met in the Freedom Bowl in Anaheim, California, and it actually went to the USC team. So that's awesome.
Yep.
And we've got a couple of broken up streaks. We've got November 17th, 1917 to December 30th, 1993, Utah got the most games over USC. And then USC has gotten 2 games in the 21-22 streak, I guess. But this one's gonna be interesting just because their records and common opponent are so dang close.
Yeah. I look at the matchups for one thing. See, Utah started the season losing to Florida on the road. It was a close game. They, but they didn't take advantage of a bad Gator defense, really. The Oregon State matchup, you look at it, Utah handled the Beavers pretty easily at home. USC should have lost that game in Corvallis,
Mhm.
but Oregon State kept throwing interceptions in the game. Helped out USC. But see, at that point, USC offense had a little blip that one particular week. So that
Mhm.
would have been the week that they get picked off. Uh, you look, like I said, looking at some of the matchups, the scores, you tend to, I think, looking at some of them, you might give USC. It's hard. You might give USC the advantage in some cases,
Yeah.
but then again, when you see Utah beating Stanford by a wider margin, Arizona by a wider margin, you're not quite sure. In that game that was in Utah, came down to the very end of the game too, 43-42. So, Utah is also dealing with a number of injuries with the tight end has had massive catches and yardage production in the last few weeks. He's been banged up. Cam Rising, the quarterback, has been banged up with a non-disclosed injury. USC should be coming in healthy. They have Lincoln Riley, the former coach at Oklahoma, and Caleb Williams, the potential Heisman Trophy winning quarterback that also transferred from Oklahoma.
Mhm.
So, that you look at that. So let's look at the stats as you said.
Well, and hang on just a second
Yeah.
before we get into stats. I made an error, and it's because I'm tired and I'm also dumb. USC lost to Utah. That was my bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It was close. It's okay that but yeah, you always revise and extend remarks. So, but no, that is awesome. But yeah, they did. It was interesting. That game, I saw the end of it. It was really a cool game the way it ended. So this could be a very good matchup. This and could be one of the better bowl games. I'll talk about what I think about the various bowl games and ranking in a minute. But basically, to look at the stats in this one, they're very even on points per game. 42 for USC, 30 right at 40 for Utah. In terms of points given up, 27 for USC, 20 per game for Utah. Offensively, they're both around 500 yards per game, but USC throws for 322 a game versus 184 rushing a game, whereas Utah is more balanced at 247 and 220 per game. Defensively, Utah has the advantage again, as we saw with the scoring defense, but in terms of yards allowed, about 317 yards a game versus USC at 405 a game. Passing yards allowed for Utah 206, for USC 262, and then the running yards about 111 for Utah and 142 for USC. So looking at this statistically, Utah seems to have some of the advantages that you would, that would, give them some advantage, but, the game's not played on statistics alone.
No.
And being a neutral site in Las Vegas, that makes a difference, because one thing to look to, like we said earlier in the year about the Tennessee-Alabama game, when they thought that maybe Tennessee and Alabama could replay in the SEC championship game, that home field advantage makes a big difference.
Yes, it does.
And Utah had the home field advantage and managed to win by 1 point. So this game might not be as close as we think, but, you never know. Neutral sites take a difference. Prime example, 1996 Sugar Bowl, the first Gator National Championship. Florida lost on the road at FSU in a very controversial game, 24-21. Then they met in the Sugar Bowl, number 1 versus number 4, and it happened that weekend. The 2 and 3 teams both lost. So then Florida ended up killing FSU by 40 points, and it wasn't even close. It was a great game for a Gator fan, but
yeah.
Then again, it moved from Tallahassee, Doak Campbell, to the Sugar Bowl, a neutral site, and things tend to even out there. You may have about a more balanced crowd usually, and things like that. So, but that's it that's kind of the behind the scenes for this game too. So, you got any other thoughts on this one before we move forward?
Nope. Let's
All
move
right.
Forward. Onward.
Yeah, because we managed we were a little bit over an hour. And listen, thank you everybody that's here. If you follow us on the, be sure to follow us on Twitch, like and subscribe on the YouTube side. We appreciate all the support that we can get. And here, with no drama, here are our picks for the games this weekend. Obviously, we agree on the three: Georgia over LSU, Michigan over Purdue, Clemson over North Carolina. Although I will still say, be careful of that North Carolina game, as we talked about the reasons for Clemson, especially after losing to South Carolina.
Yeah.
Of the three, that could be the one that could be a little surprising or closer to comfort than if you're a Clemson fan. But in the TCU Kansas State game, Geeky takes TCU. I take Kansas State. Do you have any? Why did you choose TCU in that game?
So the reason why I chose TCU is kind of personal because my uncle that lives in Texas, his daughter went to TCU. So I went with TCU because, she went there, and also I did pick most of the teams I picked because of record, but that one was kind of personal just because I know somebody that went to TCU.
Okay. That's good reasons. We've had all kinds of different reasons this year. We've had statistical, we've had dice roll, we had cheese, we had all kinds of stuff. So that's good. And the missus had bands and all that with a point system. So that's good. I'm taking Kansas State in this game, and it's more on the eye test, especially of recently with the way TCU has struggled in a number of games, specifically the Baylor game. And some of the other close wins that they've had, eventually that catches up to you. Kansas State has proven to be a snake to people a little bit in terms of when you don't expect them, they can come out of nowhere and get you. When I was just going back real quick to just try to check this, and it's been hit over the course of time. Really, is where that has happened. They it's one of those teams you don't want to face. I love the colors though. They got a really nice purple with a silver. I love their uniforms. And actually, in putting this together, the missus said that 3 of these schools use the same hue of purple.
Really?
There's a specific SKU number or a specific color number associated with the schools, and she said 3 of them had the same color. So yeah, it's good. I mean, you can also do this method. I'm all for laziness.
Yep, me too.
All right. So that's kind of it with Kansas State. I really think that TCU is going to due to lose to finally not be able to pull it out, and Kansas State has the history of knocking people off when least expected. Which takes us to the last game: Southern California Trojans and the Utah Utes. I love the Utah Utes name because of Fred Gwynn and my cousin Vinny. What's a Ute?
Yes.
Love it.
That is one of the best movies ever.
Yes, I know.
I'm shocked that you've seen it.
Oh, I've seen that one. Who cannot watch Marissa Tomei and especially Pesci when he goes crazy? Yeah, you would, but you're true. That's true. With these close wins, that's the other end of the coin. They keep squeezing by. They do feel like a team of destiny, and that's true. There's 2 sides of that coin. So I'm taking the other side on that one. So USC, Utah. Why did you go with USC?
So I went with USC because every single one of my pro teams are from California. So you have, of course, the Anaheim Ducks, because everybody knows that I love Anaheim. But then my pro baseball team is the Anaheim Angels. I'm not going to call them the Los Angeles Angels because they will always be the Anaheim Angels, and the Dodgers are in LA. Yeah. And my pro football team is the Raiders. They may not be from California anymore, but the whole time that I was growing up, they were either the LA Raiders or they were the Oakland Raiders. So that's the reason why I went with USC, because go SoCal.
All right. I'm going with Utah in this game, probably against my better judgment, but I've seen them play more than I've seen USC. In some of these championship games, it's the defenses that can win the championship, and they do have a better defense than USC. Statistically, they do have some talent on offense with Cam Rising as a quarterback. they've been, balanced attack offensively. Watching them against Florida, they know how to move the football. USC has statistically weaker defense. Neutral site game. I could. Utah is closer to Nevada. Maybe more of the Utah fans come down. Maybe they want to get gambling and stuff. Who knows? So, but that's kind of why I would take Utah. So we agree on 3 and we disagree on 2 games. How about that? And the Miss agrees with you because she likes capital letters.
I do too. I love capital letters.
Yeah. I don't know how to respond to this one.
Well, I'm just gonna I'm gonna keep this short. All I have to say is I had a morning period, so we're good.
Oh my! Hello. All right. Uh-oh. We're after dark. Hey, it's all good. We're all fun. So, what's the deal? Why would you trash on Angels fans, though? I'm wondering, Geeky. Why would somebody trash on an Angel fan, though?
I don't know. I don't know any Angels fans or, people who hate the Angels around here. Like, I am probably one of the few people in Knoxville that actually likes the Anaheim Angels. And I'm sure I would get, corrected. They're the LA Angels. No.
Well, with where you're located, you're supposed to be a Brave fan, though. I thought.
Yes, I am supposed to be a Braves fan. Yeah. The reason why I wanted to be an Angels fan is because everybody around here is a Braves fan.
No, we know you're not. We know you're not, Lupa. It was just having fun with that comment about sorry for the loss. Yeah.
No, I used to watch the Braves all the time with my great aunt. Of course, I will be in a home drooling into a bucket, won't even remember my own name, and I will remember the name Chipper Jones for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, well, what gets me is if anybody would be on anybody, it'd be the Dodger fans.
Yeah,
that would make sense. So, but no, we're all good, Whoopa. We might have to talk some baseball next year. We'll get it going. Whoopa, I tell you, if everybody you follow Whoopa on Twitter, he loves his baseball, those Cardinals. So,
see, my sports, of course, go hockey, football, and baseball. Mm-hmm. Like if I can catch an Angels game, I totally will. If I catch a Dodgers game, whatever. Yeah. But I mean, most of the time it is the Braves. So baseball. You got foosball and baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
What would be hockey though? I guess you could call it boxing because I mean they do throw gloves every now and again.
You could call it.
Maybe boxing.
I'm not sure. I'm going to tell you. I wonder if I should say this.
Uh-oh.
If you look at
it. Go for it.
Well, you got different types of balls. So the hockey could be pucking. Exactly. Go between baseball and hockey, especially when your teams are better in which sports. So I'm usually a fair weather fan sometimes. I got the ESPN Plus to watch the Devils now because I found out the Devils actually play hockey again. So
yeah, they're doing a lot better than the Ducks, who are dead effing last. Hold on, wait. Let me grab my NHL app. I'm probably gonna start cussing on this.
No. It's crazy.
I'm going to put my phone down. I'm going to act mature. And then whenever I get off this stream, I am going to act like a child. Anyway.
There you go. Go for it. Well, we're going to go ahead and start to wind down then. But on the way out the door, we're going to look at the current status of the college playoff poll. This is the one that determines which 4 will be invited to the 4-team playoff. Currently, you have Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and USC in the top 4 positions. But if everybody wins out, that would be your 4 for the playoffs. Now, barring any miracles or upsets, like if TCU or even USC lose, then you wonder what happens with Ohio State, Alabama, and Tennessee, which does stink as for Vol fans that you're behind Alabama.
I have a question. Mrs. Dadman, can I cuss on this stream?
Yeah, you can cuss a bit. Yeah.
I'm asking the lady of the house.
Oh. Well, yeah, she's really in charge of the operation.
I was
So
going to say I'm asking the boss.
you haven't listened. Don't you remember playing Fortnite with her on our streams?
Yes, but see, this is different though.
I do agree. I appreciate that. Yes, I do. So
It's not going to be a real bad one. It's not going to be like
well,
a tirade.
hell
She's
yeah.
okay. The
There's
fact
your
that
answer.
Alabama is above Tennessee is bullshit.
Yeah. It truly is, but it's a historical problem of all these polls, especially when they involve human rankings and stuff.
Mhm.
Because there's, I mean, Tennessee beat them head to head. Yes, it was a neutral. I mean, it was a home game for Tennessee. There should be a lot more credit to that. Somebody else may argue, though, Tennessee lost to a very bad South Carolina team. But then again, somebody could also counter that, well, that same South Carolina team the next week went on the road and beat a top 10 Clemson team.
Exactly.
So hey, you got a supporter here, though, Geeky.
Yeah.
Justice for Tennessee. You need to start that on Twitter.
I'm
funny.
on it right now.
There you go. There you go. We'll do that. Well, basically here, we'll see what happens with these polls. If what we think with Georgia, Michigan obviously winning, there could be 2 spots up, TCU, USC, if they get beat. But USC's been playing very well. TCU could be the team of destiny. So when we come back next time, we may end up seeing those are the 4 top 4 teams and the ones in the playoffs. So, but you can't complain about it. You'd have 4 conference winners and only one team with 1 loss. So,
yep.
Yeah, and exactly. You really have a lot of sympathy with Whoopa because he and I have been talking. I still say they rate Bama high because of quality losses, but Alabama has no quality wins.
Exactly. That is exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you can brag about wins over Mississippi State,
No.
Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss pees in its pants every time. Well, and literally on the field, the 2019 Egg Bowl.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like when they go to big team, they can't beat Alabama. They never beat Alabama, and so it's hard to consider them a top team. I mean, Arkansas was deficient this year, and Bama beats A&M and Arkansas, 2 that were supposed to be good, but they ended up in the bottom. So you had a weakened Auburn team. So I agree with that, but that's a very good point right there too. So, but looking throughout the rest of the poll, we got FSU's up at 13 after beating Florida. You see, 9 of the 10 teams that are in the championship games are in the top 25. The only one unranked is Purdue with 8-4. They, just have not managed to crack the top 25. But you got Mississippi State at 24. You got South Carolina. Hey, here's justice. Oregon State is above Oregon. Finally. Not an AP poll, but over here in the college playoff poll.
Oregon State. You did good.
Yay. So they ranked them good. Here. So, folks, that's kind of where the playoff. We'll see what happens Friday and Saturday. And we'll, and then we'll see what happens with the results of the games. And, could be interesting, and it could be a boring weekend of football. It depends on how things play out. So in a couple weeks, currently scheduled at December 15th at 9:30. Times are subject to change too, depending on things. But we're going to try to do a college bowl special where we look at not in detail all 30-something games, but we may pick them and just it's fun to say Meineke Car Care Bowl or Poulan Weed Eater Bowl, and get some weird names out there and have some fun with some of the bowl game names and some of the names of the teams too. Kind of have a lighthearted time with that. And then we'll also have a college playoff special later in the month. It's currently scheduled for Thursday, also at December 29th, where we'll talk about the 4 teams in the playoffs. we'll try to take a deeper dive. We'll watch more and see, from this week's action, and have a good time with this, and see where it goes. Geeky, you got anything else?
Nope. I can't believe the football season is almost over, though. That's crazy.
I know, it is crazy. It's amazing. 13 weeks, and now we're hitting the bowl season, and next thing you know, we'll be a new year, and football will be over.
Yep. But I still have hockey.
Yay!
Well, sort of, because my team sucks.
Well, hey,
But
pick a team that's winning. Change.
no. See, I don't care. For better, for worse, in sickness and in health, I will always be a duck. Quack,
Well,
quack, go Ducks.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, listen, like I said earlier, like and subscribe over on YouTube at DadmanWalking55. Follow us on Twitch, DadmanWalking55, and for the latest information, scheduling, and events, what we're going to do, where we're going to be, keep up with Twitter at DadmanWalking55. And again, like and subscribe on the YouTube side, because I promised a 24-hour stream at 100, and we'll see where we go. So I got to make sure I assign people jobs, help me stay awake. Third shift work. Anybody interested in third shift work? I know the missus always liked it.
Mrs. Dadman's going to have to inject you with caffeine every 5 hours.
Yeah, something like that. Aang did it once on her Twitch channel, and it was like that last hour was like, just keep going. So it'll be interesting. Well, on that note, we'll say goodbye and thank you for being here. Leave, like I said, follow, leave a like, comment on the videos, share it with others, and look forward to seeing you the next time we gather. Maybe on Sunday we'll do a post championship game wrap up and just look at the results and talk about what we saw this weekend. On that note, everybody, have a good night, and we'll see you later. Bye.